Ha, the mic is working first time. Damn. Okay, we're doing a little bit of a retro drawing tablet review video today, throwing it back to 1998. The 90s gave us good things, guys. Tamagotchi, the Sony Discman, PlayStation 1, Super Nintendo, Undertaker t-shirts, all these good things. But also this, the Wacom Intuos 1. Not the first of Wacom's drawing tablets, that came 14 years before this, but this is the first of the Intuos line. And yes, 23 years later, 2021, it still works. Hey guys, Ryan here. Welcome to the third of my drawing tablet review videos that I'm doing for drawyourweapon.com. It's a website I started last year with the aim of sharing information and inspiration with young digital artists getting started on their journey. The first of these is focusing on the older Wacom Intuos models that have proven to be really reliable and durable several years, and in this case a couple of decades after their release. None flies the flag quite so high as this 23-year-old Intuos 1, the GD-1212-U. Now this was passed on to me when I thought I had lost the pen for my first drawing tablet. This 4x5-inch Graphite 3, not the best, but perfectly fine for me getting started out about 6 or 7 years ago with digital art. Anyway, I was given this 12x12 with a USB connection and also a 12x18-inch with a serial connection, but I don't have a serial port and I didn't want to communicate with my adapter that I had for it, so that one's back in the cupboard collecting dust. But this 12x12-inch works perfectly well. I was actually quite surprised when I plugged it in, so let's take a closer look. Right, so first thing, 12x12 inches might seem like a bit of a strange format, but depending on the type of monitor you had at the time, this kind of made sense. If you were using a CRT monitor like I was with a 4:3 ratio or those old iMacs, then yeah, this size made sense. There were a number of sizes that the tablet came out in, ranging from 4x5 inches all the way to that 12x18 inch in both USB and serial connection. And actually 12x12 inches is about the long side of an A4 page, so if you wanted to trace an A4 sketch that you'd done, you could just slide it under this thick plastic tracing sheet that's on top and draw over it in either landscape or portrait mode. One thing you'll notice that's very different with this in comparison to a lot of the newer tablets today is that it doesn't have express keys along the side, but instead has this menu strip at the top. Now, I'm not overly fond of these because they're activated by the pen and not the touch of your finger. So unless you're dual wielding pens, you've got to lift up from where you're busy drawing, find the button you're looking for, and then find your place back on the canvas. Just not as smooth as, tablets today. But not a big deal really, because a lot of us prefer to just use our keyboard off to the side and use those shortcuts. You can also get separate controllers that may be compatible in combination with this as well. There are a number of different pens that were available at the time. I got this classic airbrush shaped pen with a plastic nib, the eraser on the back, programmable button on the side, and then this one, which I didn't realize at the time was the inking pen and actually has ink in it. And I was leaving these black marks on the drawing surface and I couldn't figure out why. And it had this metal tip in it, which I thought was strange. But yeah, it's pretty much a ballpoint pen that's pressure sensitive and works with a tablet. I got these two pen holders, nice and weighty, but it's also the slidey one at the top of the tablet. With the tablet already taking up quite a bit of desk space, it's nice to have the pen holder right there on it, I guess. Then I got the mouse with it, which again, because of the size of the tablet, makes a little bit more sense. The tablet is quite big and it chows a lot of your desk space. Then there's the user manual that I got and the driver installation disk, but I'm going to get the driver straight from the Wacom website instead. So that's about it. Speaking of that driver though, let's take a look at that next. So opening up the Wacom tablet properties application here, looks pretty standard, not all that much different from how it does with the much newer releases. You can customize the menu strip here, add in different keystrokes if you want to. There's a pop-up menu as well that you can program, again put in different keystrokes. All the usual things with the pen to change the pressure feel, the tilt sensitivity. I was actually really surprised that this had tilt, because that's a feature with Wacom competitors that only came in much later. In terms of the mapping, I've set mine to just my second monitor, which is my bigger one, and I've forced the proportions. So that means a section of the tablet's working area has been cut off so that it matches the ratio of my screen, which is wide. So yeah, And then same thing with the ink pen. If I bring the mouse to the tablet, it automatically picks it up, and you can change things as you like here. Of course, you can also set different presets with the pens and the functions of the tablet based on the application that you're using. So if I want my pen to have a specific pressure feel in Critter, for example, then I can just change that here. And if I want it to be much firmer when I work in Photoshop, then I can just add a separate thing here for Photoshop. Pretty nice that you can do that. I have set my pressure feel to slightly softer so that I don't have to push quite so hard to get a dark line. Okay, so yeah, pretty standard stuff. Let's jump into a drawing test. Okay, so I have a basic round brush here set to change size with pressure. Let's have a look at what it's like going from thin to thick line. Yeah, the transition's pretty decent to me. I am noticing a slight bit of wave in there. Let's just try with the opacity brush. Yeah, that transition is pretty smooth. Again, I have set the pressure feel to be slightly softer so I don't have to press as hard to get a dark line. Try some quick strokes here. Here I do notice a bit of wave. But I feel like I am noticing this more in Critter than in Photoshop. And let's try a slow diagonal. A slight bit of wave, but I don't have the most steady of hands. So we'll try with a ruler. This time a ruler that's not as jagged as a university play sword. Yeah, that looks fine to me. Certainly if you're a painter, this is the little bit of wave that is there is not going to be a problem at all. Let's try with the ink pen, because the plastic nib is worn a little bit. Yeah, that seems pretty acceptable to me. Even if you're doing some line work, that slight bit of wave in there is not going to be a problem. But with those quick strokes, it is more noticeable. So I'm pretty happy with how everything works. It all works as expected. I don't see why I wouldn't be able to create the same level of work using this Intuos One as I would with a newer drawing tablet like the XP Pen Deco Pro I've been using for the last 3 years, or even the iPad Pro for that matter. And that's kind of the point of the series as well, is to show that a lot of the time it doesn't really matter what tablet you go with. You should be able to create the same level of work based on your artistic ability at that time, and what determines what is the best tablet for you as a beginner is largely dependent on factors related to you, like your budget, what sort of workspace you have available, and what your needs and preferences are. But a lot of the time those preferences you only learn about after getting that first tablet. So that's why a lot of the time I'll just recommend that people get a pretty standard screenless drawing tablet that's not too expensive, so you can get that first experience. Anyway, let's jump into a bit of a painting test here. I'm going to be doing another grayscale portrait, this time influenced a bit by the Japanese Yamabushi I've been reading up about recently, and also feature a Japanese crested ibis. Now you'll notice it takes me a little while to get comfortable here because I've changed up my approach. Normally I like to do a sketch first of what I want to paint, but in this case I've jumped straight into painting and building up shapes. It's not an approach I'm all that comfortable with, so you'll notice I get some pretty horrible and inaccurate shapes to start off, but it starts to come together. Then I'll do a dedicated video where I add in a lot more detail and take you through the whole process of that. But for now, let's jump into this and I'll chat to you at the end. Okay, so I'm going to leave things there for now. In the next video, I'm going to take this a lot further, adding in the headpiece and a lot more detail. So if you want to know when that comes out, please do hit the subscribe button. But what about the tablet? That's why we're here. I was pleasantly surprised by this. I felt quite comfortable just jumping straight into my painting. I did find that the tablet is a little bit too big for my workspace. Remember, this is 12 by 12 inches with quite a wide area around the sides. So not the best for the way I have things set up here, but nice to work on a big tablet. I did also miss having the express keys down the side. That's a feature I use a lot in my main tablet. But again, not a big deal, not a deal breaker. I just had my keyboard off to the side where I could access all my shortcuts. You can obviously get a separate controller as well that you can program and have off to the side. Now, you're probably not going to go out and buy one of these, but if you're given one and this is what you've got, there's absolutely no reason you can't use this to get started learning how to do digital drawing and painting, or even get started with your digital art career with this. For someone like me with a pretty basic workflow and set of tools that I need for my 2D painting, this is as much as I need, to be honest. Everything else on top of it is just nice to have. Yeah, so a really solid tablet. I think it's still got a good number of years in it. If you are using one at the moment as your main tablet, or have used one in the past, please do let me know in the comments below. I'd dig to hear from you. I've got a number of reviews still lined up. This was meant to be the last of the Wacom ones, but I actually came across a secondhand 2013 Intuos Pro Medium going for a really good price, and I couldn't pass it up, so that's going to be on the list as well. I've also got my own Deco Pro to look at, and a couple of tablets coming from a friend that they'd like me to review. So you've got that to look forward to on the channel, but for now I'm going to jump back into this painting. So thank you very much for watching. I'll chat to you in the next one. Cheers.